pretend I'm in a Rob Zombie movie.
Swear like Lee Marvin up and down. Pretend you're in a Rob Zombie movie, but Rob Zombie movies are rated PG, Mr. Begley.
What?
That's what I saw.
Whoops.
Haven't you seen the trailer
Oh my God.
for Rob Zombie's new latest film?
Yeah. I saw more people's reactions than I did the actual trailer. I just kept seeing it pop up on Twitter like, what in the hell is this? Is this a joke? Is he pranking us? This, why does this look like a 90s something or other that I'm not familiar with?
Not a prank, sir. Not a prank.
I was like, I mean, did anybody expect anything different?
I did not expect it to look like a fucking commercial for a local car dealership. No, they gave him millions of dollars and an intellectual property that people have heard of, which includes essentially Universal Monsters. So yeah, I would have hoped for a little bit more, wouldn't you? He's been campaigning to make this movie forever too, you know.
I assumed kind of, I guess, sillily that it would be black and white.
You know what? It might look better if it was in black and white.
I think it might, actually.
God. Do you think this movie would look better in black and white?
No.
You don't think so? Why not?
Those beautiful landscapes.
So on this episode of the Kulturecast, I am joined once again by my good friend, Mr. Mark Begley of the Wake Up Heavy podcast. But we're not talking about a horror movie on this Patreon exclusive bonus episode. We are talking about a movie that you did pick, Mark, because we're talking about Charles Bronson over on the main show, the non-Patreon stuff. And I was like, hey, you want to talk about Charles Bronson? And you were like, let's talk about Death Hunt if you can find it.
Yes. And you found it.
Johnson, we've got a bad situation out here. I have a bunch of savages out here just aching to splatter you all over the place. They don't want your side told. Now, if you don't come in with me, that's all the excuse they'll need. They'll either kill you or get themselves killed trying.
You can't stop it.
All that!
They fight for the same cause. They live by the same code. But now, the law has made them enemies. Death Hunt. Based on the true story of one of the greatest manhunts ever.
If anybody's gonna bring Albert Johnson in, it's gonna be me, not some bounty hunter or a fly boy bucking for promotion.
Why you? Why you so special, man?
He deserves me.
Lee Marvin has the badge and the determination to get his man.
Would it make any difference if I waited? If I left now, I'd never know what it would have been like with you.
Let's go!
He's the last man in the world that anybody'd want on his trail.
Charles Bronson has the wilderness.
We've been hunting a man that knows how to live off the land and use the terrain.
As you can see, he was one of the American best trained men. Special intelligence squad in the war.
And the will to be free.
Pure fact is he's running to save his hide. And every man he killed to protect himself.
Well, what about Hawkins or Sundog? Or any of them? What did any of them die for, Millen?
Johnson didn't do anything I wouldn't do if I was in his boots. If I thought the killing would stop here, I'd let him go.
Charles Bronson, Lee Marvin, Death Hunt. Two men of equal courage face each other as enemies and triumph as heroes along the last frontier.
There he is!
We got it!
Death Hunt.
I did.
So we watched it.
So why Death Hunt?
Well, it was between this and 10 to Midnight, and 10 to Midnight is a lot of fun, and I highly suggest you and your audience watch it if you want to see Chuck Bronson wave a 10-inch dildo around at people and see a guy
I've only wanted that in my entire life.
Completely naked through the streets of LA and get shot by Charles Bronson at the end. Oops, spoilers. You should watch it. It's a wonderful piece of sleazy exploitation. And then I thought, oh no, I've been trying to watch Death Hunt for a while now. And so if you can find it, we'll do that. This is a movie that I watched on TV with my dad a ton when I was a kid. And I have super fond memories of the film. It's one of his that I like. We would watch Death Wish or whatever other ones would pop up on the local Fox channel.
Sure.
And that were in syndication or, bought in those packages and stuff. And this was always, to me, the one that I remembered more fondly than the other ones. I don't really know why, but yeah, I thought, I haven't seen this in, 30 years, probably, maybe a little bit less than that, but close to that long. Never seen it unedited for television. So that was kind of a trip to actually hear the swearing and,
sure.
And see the gore and stuff, which I didn't recall. So yeah, I don't know. I've been wanting to watch it for a long time, and I wondered how it would hold up, and had a lot of fun revisiting it.
So I had never heard of it, obviously, but it's interesting. It's kind of, again, having seen all these Charles Bronson movies this month, it is right in the vein of everything else that I've seen so far. It's a lot less of a Charles Bronson movie in a lot of ways than most of it. It's more similar to something like Hard Times, where Charles Bronson is like a supporting character, because he's the main character of this movie, but not really. He doesn't feature in it as much as the Mounties. Yeah. So the film is directed by Peter Hunt, and it does star Charles Bronson, Lee Marvin, Carl Weathers, Ed Lauder, Angie Dickinson. William Sanderson is in there for like a minute. Maury Chaykin, all kinds of people. And the film is chronicling the true story of Albert Johnson, a man who is pursued through the outbacks of the Yukon Territory because reasons. We'll get to the reason why everything is going on in this movie. But it is a movie that it's almost more beautiful than anything else. It's nice to look at.
Yeah.
Because most of the movie is pretty nonsensical. like not nonsensical, but like it's really just them chasing after Charles Bronson for like an hour.
Yeah, it's one of those where we really don't have to do a whole bunch because we've got this guy who's become super popular because of Death Wish and some of the other films that he did between that and this. And it's thin on story, but like you said, the locales are beautiful, and it's shot mainly up there in Alberta. I looked at the IMDb and it said some of it was shot in New Mexico as well. I'm not sure which parts. Maybe they had to do some pickup shots or something later on, or I guess any of the night stuff could have been shot there since you don't see any of the landscape. But the snow is all real. It looks cold as fuck. Everybody's breathing heavy steam out of their mouths and have red faces. And so that, to me, it was pretty enjoyable to see, like, people in real locales, because you don't really see that very much anymore. And yeah, I think what I picked up on as a kid, I always think of this and Clint Eastwood's The Gauntlet together. And it's because of that shootout at his cabin. And I think I confused the two a little bit because I always think that it's more like, I don't know if you've seen The Gauntlet.
I haven't.
But so Clint Eastwood is taking back Sandra Locke to be a witness in this trial. And he has to travel, I don't know, not cross country, but like from Arizona or New Mexico to California to get her to LA. And people are out to stop this from happening, and they get shot up in all these different places. They're in an abandoned house at one point and must have like 10,000 rounds of bullets shot at them. And the house basically falls apart. Same thing happens at the end. They're in a bus, and it's just like this excuse, this extravagant excuse to have all this gun violence.
Right.
And I think that I remembered Death Hunt having that, but it's not nearly as aggressive as The Gauntlet. But so I was a little bit surprised by that. I was like, oh, well, he's not even in the cabin for that long. Then it becomes a chase movie.
Right.
And I didn't really remember any of that. So there's only certain things that I really kept in my mind from childhood. Like, oh, I know that the cabin, the trick with him digging out that hole in the ground, things like that really stuck in my head. A lot of the rest of it didn't. I knew that it was him and Lee Marvin, and that Andrew Stevens was in it, who's also in 10 to Midnight. But yeah, so I think a lot of my enjoyment is nostalgic, but I also appreciate that it's kind of low key and not as exploitative as a lot of the other early 80s and late 70s Charles Bronson films. So it's sort of a nice, mellow Chuck Bronson movie to watch.
Yeah, compared to the things that I've seen this month, I haven't seen Death Wish yet. That's the last one that I haven't seen. So in regards to what I've seen so far, I feel like this is in kind of the same vein as something like Hard Times and Mr. Majestic. Maybe not so much Red Sun, but I always kind of feel like the Charles Bronson movies that I've seen, at least so far, he's kind of low key anyways. He kind of brings that like low key energy, which is not a bad thing. I mean, I think it really works for his persona.
Well, and you always have to remember that he's way older than what he's portraying on screen.
Oh, yeah.
I think in one of his later movies, I don't know if it's the one where he goes to Utah and comes up in the film that he's like in his 40s, but he was really like 70 years old at the time.
Sure.
So in this, when they filmed it, because I think this had a delayed release, if I read that correctly, or if I'm remembering correctly. And so it was probably filmed maybe late 79, early 1980, didn't come out until 81. So he was pushing 60. When the film came out, he was 60. And so, I mean, when he made Death Wish, he was already in his 50s. And it's just kind of funny to me how he maintained, when did the last Death Wish come out? He was probably pushing 80 or something. And it just always makes me kind of laugh how it happens all throughout Hollywood with people in their late 20s playing teenagers and everything else. But I think that has a lot to do with sort of his low-key vibe in a lot of things. Like he was already an old man in the action films that he was in.
The last Death Wish came out in 1994.
So he was 73.
Yeah, he was born in 21.
Yeah.
He looks really good for his age in everything I've seen him.
Yeah, he doesn't look,
it's the mustache,
that old, but once you realize, okay, he was born in 1921, this movie came out in the mid 80s and he's supposed to be 40 something.
Yeah, he doesn't look it at all.
He doesn't necessarily look 40, but he probably doesn't look his age either. It's like, no. He looks like he was 58 for most of his life.
That's fair. How about Lee Marvin, though?
Lee Marvin is one of those dudes. I think we had this conversation on the Hardcore episode about George C. Scott. He's never been one of my favorites. He kind of just plays the same character all the time. But again, I kind of like him in this because he's sort of mellow. He's cranky, but it's not just screaming Lee Marvin for 90 plus minutes, Right. So I like him. I like Carl Weathers, and Andrew Stevens is decent in this. Actually, I think he does a lot better job in this than he does in 10 to Midnight. But the weird thing, and I don't know if this stuff was cut out from the TV version or if I just don't remember it, like the whole thing with Angie Dickinson that just goes absolutely nowhere.
It is a waste of time.
It is a total waste of time. I like the stuff with the Mounties, in their office or their headquarters or whatever. But it's like, why is this even in here? And I think she even said as much after the film came out, like it was pointless to have me there.
Well, and that's what's weird is the movie's 97 minutes. So it's an hour and 37 minutes. They could realistically take 10 to 15 minutes out of the movie. And I would contend everything with Angie Dickinson. Cut it right out.
It had no bearing on the story. If it had been something where like the Bronson character or the Mad Trapper, who he is supposed to be, had killed her husband. She's there because her husband is dead. So if that had been part of it, like she's there because he was
the Mad Trapper.
He was a victim of the Mad Trapper, et cetera, might make sense. But yeah, completely pointless and doesn't advance the story in any way, shape, or form. It was like just an excuse to have her and Lee Marvin back together again.
Right.
I guess. I don't know.
It doesn't serve the plot. It doesn't serve the narrative. It doesn't serve anything.
No, not at all.
But I like this idea of the character of Bill Luce, played by Henry Beckman, actually being the Mad Trapper.
Right.
And Albert Johnson is just the guy who everybody thinks is the Mad Trapper because he bought a
wrong
dog.
Man.
Yeah.
It's the wrong man scenario, which is not my favorite movie trope, but I like it in this because I think we all realize that's not who he is.
Right.
And it's not so much that he's wrongly, I mean, that's part of it. Them assuming he's the mad trapper is the wrongful accusation, but he really does the things that they say he does, kind of. I mean, he doesn't technically steal the dog. This all starts because he buys that dog off Ed Lauder after the dog fight where it's nearly killed. And Ed Lauder doesn't necessarily want to sell him the dog, so he's sort of stealing it, but he gives him $200 for it. So, big whoop, cut your losses. That's the impetus for the first showdown between the Mounties and the, I guess, trappers and Johnson, which ends up getting one guy killed, getting his head blown off.
Yeah, Bronson does not hesitate to murder him.
I mean, as
nor
Lee Marvin,
should he. Right.
As Lee Marvin says at the end, he's not doing anything differently than I would do or that you would do in this situation.
He's killing in defense. Like, he has no choice.
Yeah, they're in the wilderness. This is, yes, there are Canadian Mounties there, but it's sort of that Old West mentality of like, you're on my land. I did nothing wrong. You shot first in every case. When the trappers just go there and somebody gets killed, again, they shot first. He's defending himself. When the Mounties and the trappers go back, they shoot first.
The trappers
kills a bunch of them. And so, yeah, he wrongfully accused for the dog stealing. And then, of course, they lay the blame on that guy getting his head blowed off on him, too. But he was defending his house and himself. So it doesn't bother me as much as sometimes like literal wrong man things like The Wrong Man or something with, the Hitchcock does all the time where everything conspires to make it look like this person is guilty.
Right.
And they have to clear their name. He doesn't really have to clear his name.
Right.
It's just, these are the events that set off this manhunt. So it doesn't stress me out is what I'm saying.
Right. But I like that they actually have a mad trapper character in the film as well.
Yeah. And I didn't remember any of that.
I think it's a pretty interesting little twist in the movie. Because I was thinking throughout the movie, I was like, is there a mad trapper or like, is this just being ascribed to Charles Bronson? And then I guess it's probably about 2/3 of the way through the movie, you kind of realize what's going on with Henry Beckman's character, where he is the mad trapper.
Yeah. Once he takes out Deke and Clarence, I think, Maury Chaykin's character.
Yeah.
I love him in this. That is another thing that whenever he was delivering his lines, I had the memory of, I really like this guy. And him and the other guy, Deke, are constantly going at each other. And when he says something like, I wasn't laughing, I was just musing to myself. And his line delivery in that just tickled me to no end. But yeah, so when he showed up at their campfire, just those two guys and Bill Luce, I started getting the idea like, oh, wait a minute. And then, of course, he just point blank shoots them. I thought, oh, okay, that makes sense. I didn't see him turning on him later in the movie, though. So that was also a nice little twist. I kind of thought
it's implied that they know each other too, right?
Yeah.
Because he says like, my daddy never told me. Well, they know each other because they meet up at that one point. But I guess I was more surprised. I guess this guy had been like out there doing this for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's the implication. And again, when I watched this the first time, I did the same thing I did with Crimes of the Future. I was up really early watching it out in front with all the fans going. I didn't catch that conversation of their first meeting in the film,
right?
Where Bill Luce asks about Albert Johnson's dad, because then he says he's dead, isn't he? And he's like, yeah, he died. And I'm like, who are they talking about? And then when I watched it yesterday, I caught that they were talking about the Albert Johnson character's dad. So they've apparently known each other for a long right. time and have history and stuff. So yeah, so that was why I was a little bit surprised that he turned on him at the end, which leads to a great trick. I love it when movies do that. Oh, and it's interesting because I recognize that Mad Trapper character. I'm like, who is that old dude? I looked him up. I'm like, oh yeah, he's the grandpa in The Brood. So there's a bunch of Canadian characters. It's not a Canadian movie, but there are, and Maury Chaykin might be one too. I'm not sure if he's Canadian, but a lot of those guys are Canadian actors.
He is Canadian.
Show up in a lot of the great horror films from the 70s and 80s.
Famed Canadian actor Carl Weathers.
Yeah. I like Carl Weathers in this. See, that's the thing is like, I recognized all these guys even back then. So that was another, like Andrew Stevens. I think he was on a TV show at the time, maybe. I'm not sure. But it was one of those movies where I knew who all the lead characters were. And so anyway.
You know what this movie reminds me of in some parts? It reminds me a lot of, I think, what Inarritu was going for in The Revenant. It has that same feel to it. A lot of natural lighting, a lot of lighting playing off of the snow, following dudes in fur out in the wild. But I found this to be more successful and more entertaining.
Still haven't seen The Revenant, so I can't speak to that.
It's okay, you know.
I like dudes in the wild movies like that. Not necessarily chase films or revenge films, but just people out. It reminded me a little bit of Jeremiah Johnson, and I think the outlaw Josie Wales is sort of wrong man or wrongly accused man. Hey, speaking of that, though, and other Charles Bronson movies, at least there wasn't any rape in this one.
Oh, my God. Jesus Christ.
Oh, well, one thing that those Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson movies have in common is somebody's got to get raped.
Well, and I mean, I was kind of expecting something to happen with the Angie Dickinson character, to be honest with you.
Right. I mean, and yeah, besides nothing at all.
Right.
Although she does get dicked down by Lee Marvin, so I guess she's got that going for her.
It's such a strange aside in this movie because it grinds the movie to a fucking halt.
Yeah, their little bed scene.
It's like who wanted this? Well, because the interplay between Andrew Stevens, Lee Marvin, and Carl Weathers is so good that's what the movie should have been. It's just like 90% that. It's kind of bummed out that Carl Weathers dies at the end.
Yeah, unceremoniously.
Yeah, I had a hard time understanding what was going on in that scene.
Yeah, that was an oddly shot scene.
Yeah.
Because the first time I watched it again last week, I'm like, who the fuck killed him? How did he get killed? And then I'm like, oh, the plane? It was poorly edited. And
well, it's kind of poorly shot too, because there are scenes with this fighter, this Bristol F2, which is like, it's, like a fucking biplane. So seeing it on screen is cool, but then
those aerial shots are great.
Yeah. But anytime there's interplay between it and Charles Bronson, it's not actually happening.
Right. It's not put together well. And that has to do with, the aerial footage is great, but anytime that he's shooting, it's staged. It's, right. 20 feet off the ground and they're shooting it. And maybe that's where they shot in New Mexico or something. I don't know. Obviously,
it probably
not the same.
is.
It could have been, if it had been edited better, it would have been more convincing. But that's where you kind of, as a sort of jaded, cynical movie person, you see, okay, the landscape isn't matching up, the angle of the plane isn't right, and blah blah blah, which did happen. It's like, just let the movie play, just be engrossed in the movie. But when it's obvious like that, it's distracting. Because he wasn't, when he shoots Carl Weathers, I think the shot before that is a shot of plane's POV, right, and you don't see any people down there in the snow. And then all of a sudden he's shooting, and then he shoots Carl Weathers. And it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. By
accident, right?
Right, because he's just crazy and wants to kill Johnson up in the tree. Yeah, and then another weird thing is when Charles Bronson's character finally kills Ed Lauder, it's off screen. He shoots him in the leg, and then Lauder is kind of flailing about. And Charles Bronson shoots again, but you don't see the kill shot.
I kind of liked it, though.
It's like something happened there. Something didn't look right, or something didn't pan out right, and they just cut out that shot. But it was like, what? I want to see this asshole who caused all of this. I want to see him get his.
That's fair. I liked it. I liked it stylistically. I thought it was stylistically interesting to have it off screen. But now that you say it like that, yeah, it makes me wonder if it wasn't just something that was like a fuck up and they couldn't do anything about it.
That was my
this footage, and he's just staring up at it, so we could just use that and edit the sound, like have the Foley artist do a scream or something. Because I mean, it probably wasn't even Ed Lauder screaming.
I mean, he's just one of those guys. He's one of those great dudes that is just going to be the asshole of the movie. Can't think of a movie where he's not, to be honest with you.
Yeah, even when he plays the only thing that I really like that comes to mind immediately when you say Ed Lauter for me is The Rocketeer, where he plays an asshole FBI agent.
I think of Cujo, where he's the asshole abusive dad, and I think of Magic, where he's the asshole abusive husband of Anne Margaret.
He just has an asshole look to him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You mentioned
he's got a great look though.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
he looks like a G-man. Like he does. Like he has that. Well, I mean, again, as someone who loves The Rocketeer, that's what I know him for. But he looks like a dickhead.
And as you've mentioned, we've got other great character actor faces in here with Lynn Lesser. You know, everybody will, hold on, maybe not everybody. Most people know as Uncle Leo from Seinfeld, and then Maury Chaykin, who I've talked about, and William Sanderson.
In it for like a second, unfortunately.
He's not in it very much, but he's got some great stuff.
Yeah.
He shoots Lynn Lesser in the back to get him out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
Takes out one of his own men.
And he just goes,
Yeah.
It was literally like a fucking mugs to the camera, like, what the fuck?
Down. I told you to get down.
And then he puts his arm in a fucking bear trap.
I know that's one of the other things that I remember, like whole cloth from the film. It's the shootout at the cabin, and I mean, really, I feel like in my head, the whole movie is the shootout at the cabin. And as I was watching, I'm like, oh, this is only like 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, it's strange because I watched the movie twice, and the first time I was watching it, I was like, is this just going to be him in the cabin all movie? And then I mean, I don't think that could have worked because they're like, at some point it's unbelievable.
Right. It could have worked for a little bit longer though, for me.
I agree. I agree.
I could have handled, a next morning or into the evening shootout.
I would have preferred it had been the trappers show up and then the Mounties show up and then the trappers and the Mounties show up together. So you get 3 opportunities as opposed to 2, because the way the movie is now, it's the trappers and then the trappers come back with the Mounties. And as much as I like that shootout scene, I actually think that shootout scene is just like the airplane scene. It's really poorly edited because it is hard to tell what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
And also, and I know I don't want to sound like CinemaSins or these other, fucking nitpicky assholes who make movie analysis content, but there is a moment where Charles Bronson is standing in the open, pumping a shotgun, being shot at by people, and nobody hits him.
Yeah.
And it's like they're standing maybe 10 feet away, 10, 12 feet away. And I can suspend my disbelief up into a point, but it's like, okay, movie. Like, I know this looks cool, but
I just told myself, they're so scatterbrained from the explosion, from him even coming out at all, to
giving the movie too much credit,
blasting, 20 shells out of his shotgun at the same time, and everyone's kind of scattering. But yeah, they do fire off a considerable amount of rounds, and no one hits them. Yeah. I mean, Yeah,
it looks cool, but it
does. It looks very cool.
Yeah, just like when the guy comes in and Charles Bronson goes, "Welcome," and shoots him out the fucking door. That's my favorite part of the movie. That for me kind of made me realize that I wish I had seen, and I haven't seen it yet this month, and maybe it's not a thing that Charles Bronson ever did. His line delivery, his one-liner delivery is pretty good.
Yeah.
That was like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was like when Schwarzenegger busts into the shack in Commando. It's like that level of like, stick around, like, hey, welcome. That is cool. It's great.
It is. That's one of the best parts. And again, one of the things that I remember very clearly from watching the film, I knew he digs a hole and shoots people when they try to come in.
Yeah.
And it only happens once. I think part of it is, his cabin is so tiny that there's not a whole lot you could do. If it had maybe been a little bit bigger of a complex or something,
right? They
could have stretched it out a little bit more and had it be a little bit more believable, like multiple kinds of setups like that, where he's tricked them. And we see that in movies a lot, where you go after somebody and they lay all these traps. Predator. Speaking of Arnold, just like
set up on deadly ground.
Set up the trap scene. We got a Nightmare on Elm Street, that montage of setting up the traps. You have a tiny, tiny prep scene in this before they show up. He saws off his shotgun, does some twirls, and you see him digging out the hole, and that's about it. I would have liked to see him setting up the bear traps. He might not have even have set up that bear trap. It was probably just out there because he's in the fucking wilderness, you know?
Yeah.
Set up some bear traps, set up some other things, dig out a hole, cover it with leaves. Somebody falls into that and gets spiked through their head, whatever. All that kind of fun stuff.
I don't know. I'm with you, because as soon as the movie leaves the complex and it starts going out on foot, it starts to lose its luster for me a little bit. Because at some point the stakes are so high, because you have like 30 or 40 people out in the wilderness, plus a guy in an airplane. It's like plus the Mounties. It's like, how is nobody finding him? Like, it's unrealistic now that they haven't found him. And then the plane
These
thing
special
happens.
forces.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that. I'm like, oh, they used that kind of trope even way back then. You know, he's like basically special forces from World War I.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything after the cabin scenes. Like, none of that stuff held in my memory of this movie at all. Even the fake out at the end with him sending out the real Mad Trapper in his stead to get shot. Don't remember that. Don't remember any of the airplane stuff. I'm like, did I watch the rest of this movie, or did we only watch up to the cabin scene and then stop it? I don't, maybe my dad didn't like the rest of the movie or something, and we would just stop it, because I recollected none of that. And I think it's just because it's not very memorable. You get a few things like him putting on the snowshoes backwards, but that's figured out immediately. It's like there's a setup, but the payoff comes like right after, and Lee Marvin figures it out, and he's laying 2 sets of tracks for us and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, okay, well, that would have been interesting maybe to explore a little bit more.
Right.
Or just have him be a little trickier. It's said multiple times by Lee Marvin and other people that, he is an expert at this. He lives out here. This is his life, and he could do this forever. We're the ones that are at a disadvantage here. We're in his world now. So you get that idea, but yeah, with that many people going after him, but not that many encounters between the two, then it's just sort of a long chase, extended chase scene for a good third of the film.
I hadn't thought about that. The lack of interactions between Bronson and Lee Marvin. It's like one.
Yeah, just through that window that one time, other than Lee Marvin, yelling out at him or looking at each other through binoculars.
The binoculars, yeah. There's like,
yeah, it's an odd way to do a movie like this with those kind of interactions.
And what I wonder is, like, was there a reason for that, to not have them interact? Because like those are the two biggest, most charismatic stars in your film. Like, why not have them interact? You don't have to set them at odds immediately. I think the movie suffers by setting them at odds immediately. I mean, I think we've kind of already mentioned as much. Like, the movie suffers because they don't give the opening 30 minutes of the movie enough time to breathe. They don't let the first act breathe. The first act is almost truncated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Instead of being 20 minutes, the first act is like 10. And it's super strange because you need that time to establish the Charles Bronson character. They establish him throughout the movie by, he was special forces, blah, 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 whatever. And it's like, why are we just learning this now?
Yeah.
Like, what? Okay, so I guess it was the audience wondering how this guy could live out in the wilderness by himself all movie. Like, I didn't wonder that. I didn't even care. Like, that doesn't serve the narrative either.
Well, and it's pretty apparent since he strolls into town from being out in the wilderness. He's obviously a wilderness man.
Right.
So
he lives off the grid. I don't understand why it has to be anything more than that.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're changing the story a lot as it is anyways. Like, the real Albert Johnson did die. They don't know who he actually was, but there wasn't some, swap of identity. I mean, I guess there could have been, theoretically. We would never know, but the way the story is told now, that's not the case. It's a rather straightforward story. They come to move him because they think he's been fucking with traps. He kills people. He runs off into the wilderness, and then he gets killed. It's essentially what happens in this movie, except he's a lot less sympathetic in real life because he was actually fucking with people's traps. In this, it's a mistaken identity, quote unquote.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of people had an issue that it wasn't factual.
Right. He's not actually Albert Johnson is what people were mad about.
And they should have simply just left that title card off the beginning of the film saying this is based on a true story, and you could have avoided all that. I liked this version of the story better, that he's not really the guy.
Right. Me too.
Because you would have a lot less sympathy for him then.
Yeah.
You wouldn't care if he got trapped, if it was a case of mistake, like he didn't do anything wrong, yet he's the mad trapper. So
he did nothing wrong, period.
He's done stuff wrong in the past, that then I wouldn't have any sympathy for his character.
Right.
In this case, not only has he done nothing wrong in the realm of the movie, he's not the mad trapper, so he hasn't done anything wrong, pre-movie starting. There's no history of him doing awful things to people and cutting out their gold fillings. So I think it would have served them better to just have it be, this is, just leave that title card off. This is an alternate history story of that real life event.
Right. I mean, it's just an alternate explanation,
Right.
Why not? Like, why not? Like, really, why not? Like, I would have preferred that, frankly. It's just like, don't make this a thing where people can get their panties in a bunch that it's not the real thing.
Yeah. Seems like that was sort of a mistake to have that in there at all.
I agree 100%. And I think it was a real mistake to not give Lee Marvin and Charles Bronson at least one quiet scene together. Like, I genuinely do not understand what they were thinking. Because Charles Bronson and Lee Marvin had worked together before in 51. I mean, they had been working in the industry for 30 years at this point. And this is, I think, the only other time they're in a movie together.
So Dirty Dozen, and I think there was one other one where I don't know if they actually acted with each other, but there's another earlier film. So The Killers. So I think this was their third movie together. It would have been interesting, I think, to have them have an encounter early on when he gets there and it's like going to the what do they call those old timey? Well, to the store, basically.
Like the trading post?
Yeah, the trading post.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't have him and Charles Bronson interact in town.
Yeah, in town.
Before there's the whole, the APB is out on him.
That trading post scene was weird. That guy's dialogue was all 80 yard.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I guess it was first sort of exposition, or I don't really understand why all of his dialogue is added here. Did they just need him to say some stuff because otherwise no one was talking during the scene? It was kind of weird because it was a one-sided conversation and it was obviously 80 yard.
Right.
Who knows?
Well, again, we've kind of already mentioned a little bit how not on point the editing for this movie was. So I can't say I'm necessarily surprised that there were some other technical issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I really did notice that throughout the film, that the editing of the action scenes was not done very well at all. I think
bad.
It's like they're missing some coverage shots and probably just didn't get a lot of that in the can.
Yeah, and it seems like it.
It makes you realize in movies where it is well done, how it can help you not be confused about things. You don't notice it until it's not done well.
Right.
Where oh wait, where is he shooting at now? What are the positions of the people? And that all comes from the editing of a film.
And that's my issue is when you have this movie, which I call an action movie. It's an action movie, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a Western too. It's like a Western in the Great White North.
Yeah. What do they call those?
Great White Northerner? Canucker?
Canucker, yeah.
It's a real Canucker of a movie there. I normally attribute Westerns to better editing because you need it. You need it, especially in a movie where the guns are revolvers, where there's there's a logical rhythm to the fight because the guns aren't machine guns. The guns are these revolvers, old style weapons where you can give it a moment. You don't have to be frenetic, but yet this movie is just all over the place. And it's a shame. Really, it's a shame.
Yeah. Think of a spaghetti Western that, the editing has to be on point.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just going to be I have no idea what's going on.
Right. And this movie comes out in 81. So it's not even competing with the early 70s Westerns. This should have been more of an exploitation action movie. Frankly, either it should have been more of a Western or it should have leaned more on these kind of early 80s action tropes, because it kind of toes the line between the two of them. That might actually be the least effective part of this movie, is just the action in general. I think it probably is, because for me, I don't think the action really lands, because there's not much action that is landing anyways, if that makes sense. They're not doing much. And when they do stuff, it's really poorly edited.
It's almost a meeting of old and new. It's a little old fashioned in its story. And, you could see it as an episode of an old Western or something in a condensed form, but yet it's modern in that when the Native American that he kills gets his head blown off, I was like, whoa. I mean, that was a pretty major squib going off in the front and the back of his head. And there's some other gore in the film.
Show a close-up of that dog getting shot, like a close-up shot of that dog getting shot.
I was like, okay, so this is 1981. You get kind of lulled into it.
And the blood is super red too. Like the blood is very stylized as well.
And you've got people saying the F word and all. I was like, oh my gosh, I realized I've never seen this movie unedited before.
Right.
I've only ever seen a TV edit of this film. And we've got F-bombs. Lee Marvin is saying the F word a bunch of times. There ain't no law against fucking, something to that effect. And it's weird to have that within a film that feels a little bit old fashioned. Or a lot old fashioned.
I'd be curious to track down Challenge to Be Free, the other Mad Trapper movie.
Yeah, I saw that there was a couple. There was like a TV movie called The Mad Trapper, and then the one you just mentioned. Yeah. Not even familiar with that story until I looked this up on Wikipedia. It's like, oh, again, when I was a kid, that title probably just like washed right over my eyes.
It has a really interesting Ukrainian actor in it who's also a professional wrestler. So I don't know. I mean, I would like to see a more faithful adaptation of the story, because I think it's an interesting story. Like you mentioned, it's kind of like Cannibal, where it's like guy out in the wild who's maybe misunderstood. Like I like that story. So I'm like yourself. Like I like this period piece setting a lot. And I wish that there were more movies that were set in this time period that were fun and not super serious, like The Revenant. I mean, that's the problem. This movie is fun. The Revenant is essentially a joyless version of this movie. I mean, The Revenant is a serious Oscar-worthy movie shot with all natural lighting, starring Tom Hardy and Leonardo DiCaprio. How much fun does that really sound? Like,
it didn't look fun to me, which is probably why I've never seen it.
and it's not fun. Something like this, as many problems as this movie has, which with all the action, it is a huge problem. It's still fun, and you still get to see a biplane get shot out of the fucking air.
I'm telling you, man, I've said it like 2 or 3 times, but that aerial footage is great. All that stuff of him flying around.
Oh yeah.
In that landscape is amazing. There's a really interesting shot. I think it's at the beginning of the movie of the mountains. And I'm like, oh, nice helicopter shot. And then I'm going, wait a minute, this looks like a crane shot. It was not a helicopter shot. It was like a crane panning down and around. And I was like, that's really, how did they do that? Did they have a big crane set up on like a cherry picker that's got wheels or something and roll it around this mountain? Because it was pretty impressive.
I mean,
it was more impressive that it wasn't a helicopter shot, I guess is what I'm getting at. I was like, what? This is weird.
Well, that is the thing. Again, I think that's the most impressive thing about this movie for me, is just the way that they captured the natural landscape. I mean, the shots of Bronson walking around in the snow, the shots of him, running down these hills and stuff. It's really well shot, which is unfortunate that a lot of the other kind of more frenetic stuff that needed to be more well edited is not well edited, because the look of the movie is great. And, we were joking at the beginning, is that why is it not in black and white? It could be, though. And, it's a well shot movie.
And, as you say that, I wonder if some of the limitations of like getting coverage and stuff were because of the location shooting.
Oh, I'm sure.
Where it's like, just kind of do the best you can, Mr. Editor, with what we've got.
And they did that. I think they did the best that they could with, in the middle of the Yukon Territory filming. I found it really interesting that Raymond Chow financed this movie.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
There was like a bunch of properties that he bought up, and
High Road to China, The Cannonball Run, Battle Creek Brawl, and this movie. And then two movies that did not get made.
Yeah, that's one of those weird. That's so weird. It's just weird.
Death Hunt, a Golden Harvest film.
I read that and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's super strange because Golden Harvest go on to make like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies and like half of every Hong Kong action movie? Yeah. Super strange.
Yeah, it is. I had actually forgotten that I had even read that. But then, you see the Golden Harvest thing at the beginning of the movie. So,
but I do like the original title for the film. I think it could have worked as Arctic Rampage. What a dumb title that would have been for this movie.
Yeah, well, they had
Rampage.
They had to fool people into thinking it was an offshoot of the Death Wish series,
Yeah. Well, yeah. So this is 8 years after Death Wish comes out? Death Wish comes out in 74?
Yeah. But had there already been a second one though?
I don't know. I still haven't even seen the first.
Death Wish 2 is probably close in time to this, either before or after, but definitely close.
Death Wish 2. Is Death Wish 2 any good? What about Death Wish? What about Death Wish 3?
I'm not sure how far I want to say I've seen 3 and 4 at some point in my life, but I really only remember 1 and 2. Those played a lot on TV as well, and they're very similar. I mean, it's like instead of New York, he's in LA. It's basically the same.
I have seen none of them, so
the same shit happens.
Same shit, different day.
It pretty much is.
New wife, new daughter. One of them's getting murdered.
Yep, and one of them's getting raped, or they both are.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So prepare yourself for that.
I am so glad that is not used as much anymore as a plot point, because holy shit, it was prolific during the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah. It happens. You'll see a lot of. Are you watching both of those, or just the first one?
Just the first one.
You'll see a lot of familiar faces in that, and there are familiar faces in the second one too. People that
Jeff Goldblum, right?
Jeff Goldblum. Is it Lawrence Fishburne in one of them?
Alex Winter in one of them?
I think he's in 3.
Is he in 3? Yeah, that's what I thought.
3 or 4.
Freaked's own Alex Winter.
And in the second one, the guy that plays Rafterman in Full Metal Jacket is one of the baddies.
Amazing.
And it's hard. Every time I hear that, I'm like, what? And then I look at his picture and I'm like, oh yeah, I can kind of see it, but he looks fucking crazy in Death Wish 2.
So what is your Charles Bronson movie of choice? Is it this?
I still have, I think, a lot of nostalgic love for this movie. I think I have to go with 10 to Midnight just for its audacity. It's fucking insane, man. I'll
have to watch it eventually.
I do like Death Wish. I do like the original Death Wish a lot. I'm trying to think of. I sort of went through a Charles Bronson phase a couple years ago and watched a bunch, and I'm trying to remember if one of those stood out. It was probably 10 to Midnight. Yeah, I think I'd put 10 to Midnight pretty high on my list. Death Wish is pretty great though. Again, low key. I mean, he kills a bunch of people, but he's not running around like Steven Seagal or something.
Steven Seagal doesn't really run though. Well, he kind of moves his mass slowly in a direction. And then if he heard me saying any of this, he would chop my brainstem right fucking half.
And Charles Bronson,
you don't like my movies?
When he does run, that's when you can kind of tell he's an old man. Though he doesn't do it very often.
Yeah, he moves slowly. He doesn't have to move quickly. I mean, that's the thing about Bronson, right? He's intimidating without having to be exuberant about it. He has like a low-key intimidation.
Oh, yeah. I think if he looked at you sideways, you'd probably shit your pants.
Yeah. And that's what I personally like about Bronson. Bronson reminds me a lot of my grandfather. They share a lot of similar facial features. And like, because Bronson's Eastern European, my grandfather was Eastern European as well. So they share those kind of similar like T-zone facial features. And so whenever I see Charles Bronson just looking intimidating, I'm like, oh my God, like Jesus Christ. Yeah. I would not want to be on the other side of the law from Charles Bronson or on the other side of the table from him should he not align with what I need to be doing.
This may be controversial, but I think his stare is a lot more intimidating than Clint Eastwood's stare.
think Clint Eastwood's stare at this point is just kind of, I don't know. He's gone into the self-parody territory.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in the older movies, it's more of a,
the eyes are closed. He's trying so hard.
When Charles Bronson does it, and he doesn't really even have to do it just because of the way his eyelids are. But when he does it, even in this movie, it really terrifies me, that look of his. It's interesting. I think for a long time, and I know he played a lot of Native Americans in older Westerns and stuff, but I think growing up, I assumed that he sort of has that cadence as well. So it still kind of surprises me when I realize that he's Polish. Is it Polish or something else?
Lithuanian.
Okay.
Yeah. I love Charles. I love his delivery. Hey, it's me, Charles Bronson. He's great. He's great. I really can see, like, this is going to sound terrible, and it's not meant to be a dig, but Bronson, in a lot of ways, is the actor that Steven Seagal wishes he could have been. Like the gravitas that Bronson just brings, that Steven Seagal could never capture. But they operate on the same wavelength of what makes them intimidating as, quote, action stars, unquote. I would contend that Bronson is much more of an action star than Steven Seagal is, but they're both action stars in their own right. I think Charles Bronson is more a classic, cut from this kind of OG action star mold. And Steven Seagal is trying to do a lot of the Bronson-esque stuff, talking slowly, talking quietly, moving slowly. Again, Steven Seagal is 6'4" or 5, and as much fun as we poke at him, I know he could kick my fucking ass 6 ways from sundown, even now as like a 70-year-old dude. Like, I don't have any preconceived notions, just like I know that if Charles Bronson and I got into a room and he was in his mid-70s, he could kick my fucking ass in 2 seconds. I genuinely believe that. Because Charles Bronson at 70 looked like he's fucking 45. Because he, like you said, he kind of looked like he was in his mid-40s to mid-50s his entire life. He's an intimidating guy.
It's that craggly face. And yeah. He doesn't have to do a whole lot to convince you that he could punch your face in.
No. And I appreciate that.
Even if he couldn't, even if in reality he couldn't, even if he had no, was not a fighter or not well-trained or whatever, you buy it regardless.
He knows how to take you down. It doesn't matter that he knows how to, and he knows what to do to make it happen. There are people that are sheer force of will. I always assume Charles Bronson he knows what to do, which is why in something like Mr. Majestic, it's so strange that he acts like such a big dum-dum, because he does. He's like he's like antagonizing Al Latieri. Like, what are you doing? Like, don't antagonize the mobster. Like, you're supposed to be intimidating Charles Bronson. Like, it should be the other way around. I love his look. He looks better without a mustache too, I think. The mustache makes him look more intimidating, but I think without the mustache, I think he looks, I don't know. With the mustache, he looks like a killer grandpa.
Yeah, he had it in so many of the movies that I've seen him in. It's hard for me. And whenever I think of him without one, it's the old 50s and 60s stuff he was in.
Like super duper young Charles Bronson.
Yeah, who was still very intimidating.
He still looked old.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's always looked like he was 50 something.
Yeah.
Even when he was 30.
He came out of the womb with lines on his face. Like, that's what it is. Like the lines here and the lines here, like the forehead lines and like the jowl lines. And you always will look like in your mid-40s, no matter how hard you try. And then throw that mustache on the guy, and it's like, you are just an old man now. But yet you're in your fucking, 50s and you look better. He looked better than most of his contemporaries did. I mean, look, Lee Marvin passed away, 10 years, 12 years before Bronson did? And Lee Marvin
was 3 years younger.
Right. And Lee Marvin looked just like Charles Bronson. He was gray from 30 or whatever. Lee Marvin looked like an old man his entire career.
He did too. Yeah, I agree. He did too.
Yeah. But Charles Bronson, I guess Charles Bronson was more of a family man and Lee Marvin was more of a drink and smoke motherfucker. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm as much fun as those guys are the American equivalent of British Hellraiser actors. I liked the British ones more than the American ones. Like Oliver Reed, you know what I mean? Like Lee Marvin is trying to do that Oliver Reed thing, right? The hard living actor lifestyle, which I appreciate. I like it. But Lee Marvin just doesn't do it for me the way Oliver Reed does. maybe Oliver Reed's performances were more exuberant and exciting, and Lee Marvin was always doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Oliver Reed, you can't pin down as he just does this one thing all the time.
No.
Plus, his off-screen antics, I think, were a little bit more humorous and British, and taking your pants off,
cheeky and fun.
Not like, oh, this guy's gonna go insane and murder everybody in this Hollywood restaurant or something like that. Not that Lee Marvin ever did anything like that, but he just seems like he was probably an angry drunk.
Yeah,
that's pure speculation on my part.
I don't know. He always just seemed like, he was kind of one note in all the things I've seen him in. So, and this is towards the end of his career. I mean, this is 81 and his last film comes out in 86. And then in 87, he's passed away. He's 53 when he dies? 63? Oh, wow. He's 63.
Yeah.
God.
Hard living, man.
Yeah. Hard living will catch up to you. But not if you're Bronson, baby. I don't know if he was hard living. That's the thing about Charles Bronson. He's kind of an enigma outside of the screen. He is a very private person. So not much is known about Bronson.
That's great.
I'm with you. If I were ever to turn into an actor for whatever reason, I would not want anyone to know anything about me.
I think especially these days, the less you know about somebody, the better off you all are.
Agreed. Less to get disappointed by, right?
Yes.
They say never meet your heroes. Just never meet anyone in general.
Yeah. Don't learn anything about anyone.
Yeah, because you might find that people are fucking problematic as in general.
Yeah, which is kind of true for all of us in some way or another.
Yeah. So Mr. Begley, final thoughts on Charles Bronson's Death Hunt.
It's probably, I think if people watch this in close proximity to his other films, it would probably be a little less interesting than most of them. But like I said, I have a soft spot for it. And I had a fun time. I wasn't dreading watching it the second time yesterday. I was actually kind of excited to be able to be alone and have the sound way up and hear some things that I miss and just watch it without any interruptions. So it's kind of fun. I like that it's not like the Death Wish films or some of the other exploitation-y movies that he did. It's not, there's no rape. There's none of that icky stuff in it. It's just man wrongfully accused, defending himself. Now, as I say, could it be shorter? Yes. Drop the Angie Dickinson stuff altogether. Have more interactions with the Mounties, and there you go. Perfect film.
Yeah, I think for me, we didn't really talk about Peter Hunt a lot. The director of the film who directed On Her Majesty's Secret Service, one of the better James Bond movies. I think now, hindsight being what it is, I think it's probably one of the best ones of the original pack. George Lazenby only got a shot at it once, so take that with what you will. But it's a good movie, and it does a lot for the James Bond character that almost none of the other movies ever even attempt to do. But his quick cutting style in that movie is clearly indicative of him as a director. And this is his fifth film at the time. So, I guess my expectations going into this movie were that it was going to lean harder into the 80s and less into the 70s. And it ends up leaning on the 80s a lot less than it does on the 70s, which I don't think is as successful as it could have been given the other kinds of movies that are going to be coming out within 1 or 2 years of this movie. And yeah, look, Charles Bronson and Peter Hunt worked together again in 87 on another movie called Assassination, which is a canon film. And I'm sure it is the kind of nonsense that I was expecting from this movie. But that being said, I think this movie is pretty fun. And I think overall you could do a lot worse. And if you just fast forward through the Angie Dickinson scenes, literally fast forward through them, you will enjoy this movie a lot more because you'll be able to get it in under an hour and 30 at least. And you will lose nothing by not seeing those scenes, which is unfortunate to say, but why? Yeah. I'm surprised she wasn't topless, frankly. That's kind of what I was expecting the reason for her inclusion was for the obligatory TNA, which there wasn't any. So
no.
It was just, I was kind of surprised that was my expectation was here's a female character. She's going to get naked. That's why she's here. And that didn't happen. So I was like, well, it's not been a thing to have female characters in these Bronson movies being given a lot to do. So I wasn't surprised that this one kept with that.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, female characters being raped and murdered. Like that should be indicative right there.
Well, that's the thing is they're usually used as a plot device.
Right.
But
not a character.
That's not even the case here.
No.
It's like she doesn't have anything to do with the plot.
I literally have
not
no
even
idea.
A B story. It's not even a B story.
Nope. I have no idea why she's in this movie whatsoever.
I don't either. Hey, good for her. If she got a paycheck, fuck it.
You got to go to the Yukon Territory for a while and film, whatever. Must be nice. So Mr. Begley, when you're not here chatting with me about God knows what, where can people find you?
You can find me at wakeupheavy.com. Listen to the show wherever podcasts are streaming and available. And that's good.
That's good for me. Is it good for you? As for me, you know where to find me, cstachiw.com. And Patreon, that's why you're here. So thank you for being a Patreon supporter. And, keep on listening.